and we'll be your host for this exciting session. Whether you're here to deepen your understanding of customs regulations, preparing for the Customs Broker's Licensure Exam 2024, or simply eager to expand your knowledge, well, you're in the right place. Thank you for joining us this Tuesday's morning. We're thrilled to have a community of passionate learners and professionals gathered here today to explore the fascinating world of customs laws.
Okay, for the purpose of this webinar is about empowering you with the insights into the landmark cases and selected topics that have shaped the legal landscape of customs regulations. And who better to guide us than our distinguished speaker, Attorney Erwin C. Andaya. Attorney Andaya is a respected expert in the field of customs law, known for being distinguished lecturer at the University of Cebu main campus at the College of Customs Administration, placing third on the 2010 Customs Broker Licensure Examination and passing the bar exam as an exemplary passer with an average of 87.88%, and also recently passing the Associate Professional in Human Resources Certification exam by the HR Certification Institute of the United States of America.
As we move through the session, we encourage you to actively participate. Take notes, ask questions in the chat, and share your thoughts. Remember, this is a unique opportunity to connect, learn, and grow alongside your fellow Aduanas. Before we dive in, here are some housekeeping notes that we need to abide for. First is please ensure your microphones are muted during the presentation to minimize distractions. Second, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box. We'll address them during the Q&A segment later. And lastly, don't forget to stay until the end for a special message.
Thank you. Without further ado, thank you for that, Sharon. Let's kick and warmly welcome our esteemed speaker, Attorney C. Andaya. You may take now the stage, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian and Earl. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Clear po.
Thank you. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the University of Cebu main campus, Philippine Society of Customs Administration students, led by, of course, our President Christian, for hosting this morning's webinar. So this is just first of the many webinars that we will implement in the succeeding weeks. So thank you so much, Christian, for taking the lead. I'd like also to greet all of our students and faculty members who are joining us this morning for our lecture. I see familiar faces. Some of my former students will be taking the licensure examination this coming 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks ba or a week from now? I think it's a week from now. So we are praying for your success, all our future customs brokers. So as early as now, you claim that you are customs brokers. It's just a matter of formality. It's just a matter of time that you will eventually become full-fledged licensed customs brokers. So please allow me to share my screen. Can you see my screen? Is it visible on your end?
Yes, attorney.
Okay. So this morning, I shall talk about the landmark cases in customs laws, because even during my time when I took the board examination, there were 3 questions about cases. And according to some of our recent passers, for the last 5 years, cases have been asked in the board examination. So this is one way of preparing you for your board examination. At least if of all the cases that we will discuss this morning, if there will be 3 or 5 questions about these cases, then you get 3 or 5 points in customs law subject. And that really matters, especially if you aim to top the licensure examination. So let's start. Okay, before we begin with our discussion proper, let me just share to you this scenario. And I'd like to ask your opinion if this happens. So let us say, for example, last week, your brother sought permission from your parents to go on an overnight trip with his friends. And your parents agreed and allowed him. This week, you asked permission to go watch a movie with your friends. Unfortunately, your parents denied your request. So if that happens to you, what would you feel? How would you react? Can anyone share to us what would he or she feel? Let me call some of my students.
Sir,
How about let's yes. Do I have a volunteer?
sir, question po dun sa sa pangilan po ba yung brother na pinayagan?
Regardless, pwedeng panganay, pwedeng second, pwedeng pangatlo. Yes,
Eh,
would
kasi
you
kung
like to
panganay po
answer,
yung
Jor?
kasi kung panganay po yung pinayagan, okay lang po yun kasi parang mas nakakatanda. Eh kung bunso po yung hindi pinayagan, kumbaga concern lang yung parents.
So don't you feel unfair? Don't you feel it's unfair? Porket
Um,
porket siya yung pinakamatanda, okay na. Is there a special
um,
treatment
uh,
for eldest?
no, I will not take that as special treatment, sir, because siguro ay depende din po sa age po nung hindi pinayagan kung bata pa. Pero if tag dito, kapag ka on legal age naman na siya, yes sir, tama po. Medyo unfair po talaga siya.
Okay. Do you have a brother or a sibling, Jor?
Yes, yes sir, I do.
Okay. Sige. Thank you, Jor. Let's call the others. Merong mga sumagot dito na regardless of age, unfair. Sige. Let's call Patrick.
Hi, sir.
Patrick
Kamusta?
of Davao. Yes, Patrick. What would you feel? How would you react?
To be honest, sir, I would like to know the reason for the denial, sir. And if I was given a valid reason, sir, then I would accept the
Let us say, for
decision.
example, your father doesn't just feel you out going out.
If it sounds valid to me, sir, I mean, pag may support, I mean, if the reason of my father, sir, is valid, then um hindi na ako magko-contest, sir, pero if ever it seems like it's not enough, sir, then I will contest, sir, or parang mag-appeal ako ulit, sir, na
Okay.
parang pwede ba akong payagan ulit?
Okay. Thank you, Patrick. Let's hear from the ladies. I see here, how do I pronounce your name? Is this Klijsteen? Klijsteen Fumar?
Yes, attorney.
Hi. From what school are you?
I'm from Agusan de la Sur po, ADSCO.
Okay. So all the way from Agusan. Thank you for joining us this morning. Sige, what's your opinion on this, Klijsteen? Let's say, for example, you're both of legal age. Your brother is, let us say, 19 years old. And then,
Okay.
how young are you now, Christine? How young are you?
21 po, attorney.
21. Sige, let us say, for example, your brother is 21 years old. You're also 21-year-old.
Okay.
So how would you feel if siya pinayagan pero ikaw hindi?
First po, magwa-wonder kung bakit ganon yung naging desisyon ng magulang. Then, magtatanong ulit kung ano yung pinakarason niya, kung bakit hindi niya ako papayagan. Tapos kung valid naman, tatanggapin kung para din naman kung pabor din naman sa akin yung naging desisyon ng magulang ko. Siguro ganyan po, attorney.
Okay. Thank you, Christine. So there's a message here from our organizers. Please make sure to fill out the registration link so you can be given your copies of e-certificates. So for those who want to have e-certificates, so kindly fill out the registration link. Okay. Meron pang, let me call another one. Is Jake here? Jake, are you here?
Yes, attorney.
Oh, Jake. Oh, good morning, Jake. Oh, sige. What would you feel if you're in this situation, Jake? Jake, what would you feel? Wouldn't you say it's unfair? Wouldn't you say, why did you allow my brother, and then why won't you allow me? You allowed my brother to go on an overnight trip. Overnight yun. Sa susunod na araw na siya uuwi. Pero ako, manonood lang ng sine, hindi niyo pinayagan. Wouldn't you react that way?
Yes po, attorney. I feel
Okay,
unfair
thank you,
din
George.
po sa-
Oh, Jake. So normally that would be your reaction, di ba? Is it not fair? Is it unfair? Pareho naman kami ng situation, di ba? So that is how cases are also resolved. Okay, that's how cases are resolved. If a certain case falls squarely with your situation, then you could also say, bakit si kuya pinayagan niyo, ako hindi? Okay? So that is also how cases can be invoked if ever you are in a similar situation, or if the facts of your case are similar with a previous case decided by the Supreme Court. And why is that so? Because of the provision in our civil code, which says that judicial decisions applying or interpreting the laws or the Constitution shall form part of the legal system of the Philippines. So according to the court, in the case of Chinese Young Men's Christian Association, when the Supreme Court has once laid down a principle of law as applicable to a certain state of facts, it will adhere to that principle and apply it to all future cases where facts are substantially the same. So kung magkahalintulad yung kaso na previously decided ng Supreme Court at yung isang kaso, then logically, legally, the Supreme Court will apply the same ruling in the previous case to that case at bar. So maybe you would ask, in your reading of various cases, baka na-encounter nyo yung phrase na question of law at question of fact. So question of law, according to the court in Liuco versus De Vera, arises when there is doubt as to what the law is on a certain state of facts. Kung ano ba yung provision ng batas na applicable sa situation na yan. That is a question of law. But if there is doubt as to the truth or falsity of the alleged facts, kung totoo ba yung facts, kung totoo ba yung allegation, kung totoo ba yung claim, kung totoo ba yung defense, then that is a question of fact. So for example, question of law would be, what is the treatment of forfeited goods? Diba, we all know that under the CMTA, forfeited goods shall be disposed of in accordance with the provisions found in your CMTA. So the treatment of the goods would depend on their nature, di ba? Kung ipapublic auction ba yan, if i-condemn ba yan, or i-donate ba yan. So that is the question of law. What is the treatment as to the mode of disposition? The question of fact would be, is the forfeited shipment regulated, restricted, or prohibited? Bakit question of fact siya? Because you have to determine if the shipment is considered regulated. Does it fall under Section 117? Is the shipment subject to regulation by a government agency? So it is something that you have to discover. It is something that has to be proven. Okay, and it requires the presentation of evidence. Is it restricted? Does it fall under Section 119 of the CMTA, which says that these goods are not allowed to be imported into the Philippines except when there is a law or a regulation allowing such importation? Or is it prohibited? In all cases, the importation is not allowed into the country. So that's a question of law, and that's a question of fact. Okay. Next, we will distinguish first what is administrative, civil, and criminal case. Kasi marami nagtatanong sa akin, Sir, ano po ba yung administrative, civil, and criminal? So let us try to understand these three different cases. First is, okay, nature. Administrative case seeks to enforce personal liability arising from the exercise of a privilege, of a profession, or of a duty. While civil is to enforce personal liability arising from a civil obligation like a contract. Ang criminal, on the other hand, is to enforce personal liability arising from a violation of a law. So sa administrative case, ang purpose lang niya is to enforce the personal liability by a person because that person did something not good, did something which is detrimental to the interest of another person in the exercise of his privilege or of the profession. So for example, if a customs broker violates the code of ethics, so that act is in the exercise of your profession. Diba? As customs brokers, nag-violate ka ng code of ethics. So that is an administrative case because the purpose of the case is to enforce your liability. Okay? Civil. For example, meron kang contract. You have a contract. An example would be a contract of loan. Umutang ka sa kapitbahay ninyo. Meron kayong loan agreement. Hindi ka nagbayad. So, ang kapitbahay mo, maghahabla sa'yo, your neighbor will file as collection suit against you to enforce your obligation to pay the loan, to pay the money that you borrowed from your neighbor. Well, yung criminal case naman would be to enforce personal liability because you violated a crime. You violated a law. Okay. So, when it comes to the title or to the caption, generally, this is how cases are titled. If it's an administrative case, then it's a person versus another person. So AAA versus BBB. Or if it is an administrative agency or government agency, so Bureau of Customs versus AAA. A civil case, since it arises from personal relations, so from one person against another person, so AAA versus BBB. Or kapag annulment or declaration of nullity of marriage is a civil case, so that's the husband versus the wife or the wife versus the husband. When it is a criminal case, the title would be People of the Philippines versus the person. Why? Because it is prosecuted by the state. Okay? Kasi ang doctrine dyan, ang principle dyan, kapag gumawa ka ng krimen, you are not just violating the person concerned. For example, nagnakaw si Pedro kay Juan. Kapag nagnakaw si Pedro kay Juan, hindi lang si Juan yung ninanakawan ni Pedro. Okay? Because Pedro is a risk to everyone. And that is why the state, being the protector of the people, has the authority to prosecute Pedro in the name of the people of the Philippines. So that's why kapag criminal case, people of the Philippines. Because when you commit a crime, you're not just committing the crime against the person concerned, to the private party, but you are committing it against the state. That is why people of the Philippines versus AAA. That's an example of a title. Next, venue or jurisdiction. Sino yung may authority to hear the case? Okay, that is jurisdiction, right? The power or the authority to take cognizance of a case, to hear the case, to try the case, to decide on the case, and to enforce its decision. So kapag administrative case, then usually the jurisdiction and the venue lies on an administrative agency, such as, for example, the Bureau of Customs when it comes to seizure and forfeiture cases. PRC, if it comes to administrative case against professionals. Department of Trade and Industry, pwede rin. The Department of Finance in the exercise of the Secretary of Finance's power of automatic review. Okay? Civil case naman, korte talaga yan. Okay? It's the court that determines the liability for civil cases as well as for criminal cases. So hindi pwedeng magpataw ng kulong, hindi pwedeng magpataw ng ngayon wala na kasi tayong death penalty. So imprisonment or the payment of fine for violation of our laws, especially if it's in the nature of a criminal liability, nasa hukuman natin yan. Next, the penalty. What is the penalty for administrative case? The penalty would be either a fine, so magbayad ka ng multa, or suspension or revocation of your license. So if, for example, if a case against a customs broker for violation of the Code of Ethics is filed before the PRC, then the penalty that can be imposed by the PRC would either be payment of fine or suspension for a specific period or the revocation of the license. Hindi pwede kulong ng PRC yung isang tao na nag-violate ng Code of Ethics. Unless, of course, there is a criminal liability arising from it and the case is heard by a competent court. So hindi pwede yung administrative body mag-decide ng criminal case. Civil naman, payment of fine or enforcement of obligations, such as the one I mentioned earlier. If there is a loan agreement, a contract of loan, and then the borrower fails to pay and the lender sues the borrower, then the court decides on the liability of the borrower. And most likely, the court will tell the borrower to pay, okay, to pay money or to enforce personal liability. For example, if hindi naman siya contract of loan, contract of transportation ba siya? So kailangan ng isang ship, ng isang transport company na i-transport yung tao o yung bagay man or goods, then the court will say that you have to comply with your obligation. Okay, there's a question here. Saan naman papasok yung ombudsman? Well, it depends. If it's an administrative case, then the ombudsman is on the administrative liability. Okay? Kasi yung ombudsman naman wala siyang kapangyarihan na mag-impose ng kulong or kulong, yes, kulong lang kasi wala tayong death penalty. Wala siyang kapangyarihan na mag-impose ng penalty na kulong because if it is a criminal case committed by a public officer, such as for example, bribery, yung sinuhulan yung isang empleyado ng ahensya ng gobyerno. So, yung magdedetermine ng probable cause is the ombudsman because that is part of the power of the ombudsman. So, pwede kasi, for example, if a government employee commits a crime, let's say bribery, pwede siya criminal liability yung bribery. Pwede din siya na meron siyang administrative liability. So pwede siyang matanggal sa trabaho, pwede siyang masuspend sa trabaho. Okay? So like for example, the case of Mayor Alice Guo. So yung pagkatanggal niya as mayor, that is an administrative case because it is I think the ombudsman who ruled that that she should be dismissed from the service, from the office. So that is an administrative case. Yung pending niyang cases na yon, criminal cases naman yon because of the allegation that she supported the establishment of POGOs in her area. So that's another case. Okay, I think it's anti-trafficking of persons violation naman yung sa kanya. So that is a criminal case. Sir, may nagtanong dito, Sir, paano naman kung Republic of the Philippines? Well, it depends. It depends. Kasi normally kapag Republic of the Philippines versus tao, like in the case of seizure cases, it's Republic of the Philippines versus the shipment. So it's an administrative case. Okay? So generally lang to, hindi to applicable in all cases. Lahat ng cases ganito talaga yung title because it would depend. Remember, it is not the title that determines the nature of the case. Hindi dahil ganyan yung title, ganyan na talaga yung nature ng case. Admin siya, civil siya, criminal siya. No. Okay? Ini-illustrate ko lang sa inyo ano yung generally, usually, ano yung title kapag ganyan yung case. But this does not apply in all instances. Okay? Sir, may limitation po ba sa ombudsman? What if he holds high position? Okay, sa ombudsman, ang ombudsman kasi meron siyang admin na aspect, meron ding criminal aspect. Pero yung role ni ombudsman as to criminal cases would only be to prosecute. So ibig sabihin na mag-prosecute, maghabla, mag-file ng case sa korte. So it's still the court that will hear and decide the case depending on the salary grade of the official or the employee. Under our existing regulation, kapag salary grade 27 and up, yung mag-hear ng case ay sandigan bayan. Kapag below naman, that would depend on the jurisdiction. Pwedeng MTC, Municipal Trial Court, pwede rin namang Regional Trial Court. Depende yan sa jurisdiction. And mostly, criminal cases, ang jurisdiction niya would depend on the penalty to the imposable penalty. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's kapag 6 years of imprisonment and below MTC. Kapag lagpas ng 6 years, RTC. And then examples of administrative case would be a forfeiture case, an forfeiture proceeding sa Bureau of Customs, or an administrative case against a customs broker, or an administrative case against a public official. Okay? A civil case naman would be a declaration of nullity, yung magpapaanal ng kasal. Okay? Action for damages or collection of sum of money. Criminal cases such as smuggling, bribery, murder, rape, or homicide. Okay, let's move to the first case. The case of Erwin C. Remigio versus Sandigan Bayan. Ito yung unang case regarding a customs broker's criminal liability. And this case even came up during the time that I took the board examination. So let's discuss the facts. Ano ba yung nangyari dito? Makichismis muna tayo. So first, Erwin Remigio filed an import entry because Remigio was engaged as a customs broker for a particular shipment. If I'm not mistaken, the name of the importer was, I forgot the name. Borham Trading. Borham Trading was the name of the importer. And the shipment consisted of a 1x40-footer container said to contain 25 metric tons of sodium bicarbonate or yung tinatawag nating baking soda. So there were 25,000 kilograms of baking soda and one sack is 25 kilograms. So ibig sabihin, there were 1,000 sacks. Okay? Remigio declared that the shipment contained 1,000 sacks of sodium bicarbonate or baking soda. And based on the declaration, the importer paid the duties and taxes in the amount of 22,972. And since the duties and taxes of the shipment were paid, the shipment was released. And nung lumabas na yung container, habang yung container was on its way to the place of destination, doon sa warehouse niya, along Quezon Boulevard or Quezon Avenue. I think it's Quezon Avenue near Santo Domingo Church. I think it's Quezon Avenue in Quezon City. The members of the Economic Intelligence and Investigation Bureau intercepted the container. So pinara nila yung container, sinis nila yung container, dinala sa Camp Aguinaldo. And in the Camp Aguinaldo, the entire container was stripped and they found other items. They found items other than the declared items na baking soda. According to the examination report, there were tires, belts, shoes, clothes, computers, watches, and a luxury vehicle, a Mercedes-Benz. And according to the examination report, the duties and taxes that should have been paid in the shipment is 1.6 million pesos. And because of that, a criminal case was filed against the customs broker. So, tatanungin niyo, sir, bakit hindi people of the Philippines? Because this is a case appealed in the Supreme Court. Okay? Kung nandun tayo sa first pa lang level ng trial, kasi ito Sandigan Bayan, so that means anong ibig sabihin ng kapag Sandigan Bayan? Although not mentioned in the case, not mentioned in the case, but most likely there were public officials involved in this case kasi Sandigan Bayan. Si Remeo naman is a private person. He's not a government official. So walang jurisdiction supposedly ang Sandigan Bayan kasi private person siya. Pero kapag yung private individual merong element of conspiracy with government officials, sasama siya doon sa government officials na hinabla doon sa case. So most likely, although not mentioned in the case, kasi yung case naman nito ni Remeo was only about him as a customs broker, hindi na sinali yung ibang government agency, government officials. But most likely, merong mga government officials involved in this case, kaya sa Sandigan Bayan final yung criminal case. Now, according to the Sandigan Bayan, convicted si Remigio. Sabi ng Sandigan Bayan, merong violation si Remigio. Sir, bakit walang liability yung customs officer na first na nag-examine and nag-recommend ng release? Hindi binanggit ng case, Patrick. Unfortunately, I cannot answer you because even the case did not mention about such fact. Kasi nga, yung decision ng Supreme Court is only based on the appeal of Remigio. Now, sa level ng Sandigan Bayan, sabi ng Sandigan Bayan, Remigio was guilty of smuggling. Okay. Remigio did not stop. Hindi siya nawalan ng pag-asa. He did not lose hope. So after Sandigan Bayan, I think the decision of the Sandigan Bayan was in 1988. He went to the Supreme Court. He appealed his conviction to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court was convinced that Remigio was not guilty. Why? The court said, okay, what was the ruling of the court? Take note of this. The court said, Remigio as a customs broker only prepared the entry, covering the shipment based on the bill of lading, the invoice, the packing list, the letter of credit, import entry declaration, and central bank release certificate. Someone messaged me if I will not turn my video on. So I will not turn my video on so that you can see the entire screen. Okay? Kasi ang importante naman dito is yung discussion ng case, not my face. Okay? So, that's what the Supreme Court said. All that Remigio did was to file the entry based on the documents. There was nothing in the documents to show that there was anything amiss or anything wrong in the shipment or the covering documents. The Supreme Court finally ruled that a customs broker is not required to go beyond the documents presented to him in filing an entry on the basis of such documents. Anong ibig sabihin nito? It means that ang customs broker, hindi siya required na tanungin yung importer. Oh, Mr. Importer, totoo ba? Ito talaga yung laman ng container? Totoo ba, Mr. Importer? Ito talaga? Sigurado kayo? Hindi kaya gugulpihin ng importer yung customs broker kapag tinanong niya si importer, di ba? So sabi ng hukuman, as long as the customs broker has basis for such declaration through the documents given to him by the importer, the customs broker is not required, okay, na o sisihin pa kung ano talaga yung laman ng shipment na yon, kung ano talagang laman ng container na yon. Take note, the customs broker, yes, yes, Sheila, you have a question? Sheila, you have a question, Sheila? Okay, so let's continue. Take note that the customs broker is not part of the importation per se. Why? Hindi naman siya yung nag-order from the supplier. He was not even present when the buyer, when the importer consummated the contract of sale with the supplier. Diba? Kailan lang pumasok si broker? Ito, totoo naman talaga to. Kailan lang pumapasok yung mga broker? Kapag magpaparelease na si importer sa Bureau of Customs. So hindi niya talaga alam, walang alam si customs broker kung anong talagang laman ng shipment na yon. And according to the court, Remigio did not fraudulently assist in the importation nor facilitated the transportation of the goods knowing the same had been imported contrary to law. Ang ginawa lang ni Remigio as a broker was to prepare the import entry based on the shipping and other documents required by the Bureau of Customs and filed this entry. You can relate this to the provision on smuggling, di ba? The definition of smuggling. Tatlo yung acts ng smuggling. The first act is when the person himself or herself brought the goods into the Philippines. When the person personally imported the goods into the Philippines. Second act of smuggling would be when the person assisted in the sale, in the transportation, in the concealment of the goods, knowing the same to have been imported contrary to law. So hindi enough na nag-assist ka lang. Dapat merong element of knowledge that the goods were imported contrary to law. And according to the court, in this case, walang knowledge si Remigio because all he did was to file the import entry based on the documents. So how will a customs broker benefit from this ruling of the Supreme Court? Well, the customs broker can always invoke the ruling of the court in the case of Remigio versus Sandigan Bayan. But take note, the case of Remigio versus Sandigan Bayan was decided at the time that the Tariff and Customs Code of the Philippines was still prevailing. Ngayon, meron na tayong CMTA. And take note din, according to the CMTA, particularly in Section 107, the customs broker is liable to ensure the accuracy of the goods declaration. Wala yan noon sa TCCP because Section 107 only came out in the CMTA. So, pwedeng mag-argue din ganyan. Okay, pwedeng sabihin na the case of Remigio is not applicable because of Section 107 of the CMTA. But, of course, it's how you argue. Okay? So, depending on how the customs broker would argue his case before the Supreme Court. And the customs broker can always invoke the case of Remigio versus Sandigan Bayan. So my advice to you as future customs brokers, and even meron tayong mga customs brokers dito na nag-attend, make sure that all the documents that you based your declaration or your import entry must be or must originate from your importer. You have to prove that these documents were given to you by your importer. Why? Because at the end of the day, if anything happens, your importer will always say, we have no knowledge of the documents. Ilalaglag ka ng importer mo. So you have to make sure, customs brokers, that you can prove to the court that the documents were given to you by the importer. So my advice to you, if ever merong ibibigay na documents si importer sa inyo, pwede kayong mag-email. Okay, for example, if the importer delivered certain documents to your office, then you email the importer that, dear Mr. Importer, dear Madam Importer, I would like to acknowledge the receipt of the following documents that you or that your office sent to my office as follows, number 1, number 2, number 3. At least when it comes to cases in the future, just in case a case will be filed against you, you can always use that as proof that the documents were given to you by the importer. At hindi sasabihin ng importer na kayo lang yung gumagawa ng mga documents na yan. Second case, this is also another case, is a recent case involving the criminal liability of a customs broker. Sir, ask lang po ba, di ba misdeclare po yan? Kapag pa misdeclare, automatic mag-undervalue or misclassify? It depends. Okay, it depends. Because when you say misdeclare, you did not declare either the quantity, the quality, the measurement of the shipment. When you say undervalue, it's only on the value. You did not declare the true value of the shipment. If it's misclassification, then you either intentionally misclassify the shipment or you use an incorrect tariff heading. Okay, so it does not automatically happen. So if it doesn't mean that if you misclassify, there is always undervaluation. It doesn't mean that if you undervalue, there is misclassification. It would depend on the facts of the case. Okay, let's move on to the next case. The second case involving a customs broker. Openiano versus People. Ito, People of the Philippines na talaga to, di ba? It's a criminal case. And this case was decided in 2022, December 5, 2022. So what happened in this case? Go to the facts first. Okay. Openiano is engaged as a customs broker. So there was an importer who asked him, Openiano, to be the customs broker. And the shipment involved 40,000 kilograms of flour. So according to Openiano, he filed the import entry, declared it to contain as 40,000 kilograms of wheat flour, and paid the duties and taxes, or did not pay, hindi pala, wala pang binayaran dito, with the duties and taxes due amounting to 99,521. However, upon examination, it was found that the shipment actually contained 115,000 kilograms. Hindi lang 40,000 kilograms, 115,000 kilograms. And the duties and taxes due on the shipment would have been 273,539 pesos. There was a discrepancy of 65%. So sabi ng Bureau of Customs, there was a violation. Okay, there was misdeclaration. There was undervaluation. So a case was filed against the importer and the customs broker. But in this particular case, it was only the customs broker that the regional trial court convicted for violation of smuggling. So Openiano went up to the Supreme Court, okay, until the Supreme Court heard the case. And the Supreme Court said in the case of Openiano, are you familiar with the SAD, with your single administrative document? If you look at your single administrative document, there is a box. There's a statement saying that we hereby certify that the information contained in all pages of this declaration and the documents submitted are to the best of the knowledge, true and correct, I mean. So ibig sabihin, kapag pipirma ka sa single administrative document, you are certifying that the declaration as well as the documents attached to your entry are true and correct. Sabi ng Supreme Court, sabi ng desisyon ng mababang hukuman ng Regional Trial Court that Openiano committed a violation because he certified that the shipment actually contained 40,000 kilograms only, when in fact, the shipment actually contained more than 46,000 kilograms. But the Supreme Court did not agree on such decision of the lower court. The Supreme Court said, the signature of a customs broker in an import or export entry declaration generally signifies only an assertion of truthfulness based on the commercial documents provided by the importer. So take note of that, ha? The signature of a customs broker is only an assertion of the truthfulness based on the commercial documents presented by the importer. Sabi kanina sa Remehio, a customs broker is not required to go beyond the documents presented to him on the basis of such documents in filing the entry. Diba? So paulit-ulit ang sinasabi ng Supreme Court, kapag yan lang yung documents na ibinigay ng importer sa iyo, at dyan ka nag-base doon sa inyong declaration sa import entry mo, wala kang liability. So take note of that. According to the court, the certification of the customs broker extends only to his or her knowledge based on the commercial documents. And if you want a customs broker to be liable for smuggling under Section 1403 of the CMTA, there should be intentional misdeclaration. A customs broker will only be criminally liable if found to have personally and knowingly participated in the misdeclaration or undervaluation, or they acted in conspiracy with the consignee or the importer. So those are the two criminal cases involving a customs broker. And the two cases decided by the Supreme Court have a common denominator. And what is the common denominator? A customs broker will not be liable if the customs broker prepared the entry based on the documents presented to him by the importer. And if ever a customs broker must be held liable, it is only when it is proven that there was intentional misdeclaration or there was conspiracy with the importer. Okay, so those are the two criminal cases. We move on to civil cases involving customs broker. But before we go to the cases so that you would properly understand why the Supreme Court ruled this way, so let's discuss first a few provisions of the law, especially on the civil code aspect on common carrier. According to the civil code in Article 1732, common carriers are persons, corporations, firms, or associations engaged in the business of carrying or transporting passengers or goods or both by land, water, or air for compensation, offering their services to the public. Ano bang ibig sabihin nito? Kapag ang isang tao, isang korporasyon, isang negosyo ay nagta-transport ng pasahero o ng kahit anong bagay or both by land, water, or air at nanghihingi ng bayad sa publiko, siya ay isang common carrier. For example, yung inyong mga jeep, okay, yung mga e-jeep ninyo, yung mga bus, di ba? They offer their services to the public. Hindi naman pwedeng sabihin, oy, bawal ka dito. Gwapo't maganda lang ang pwedeng pumasok sa bus ko. Hindi naman, di ba? Kahit sino, basta papara ka sa bus doon sa tamang sakayan, the bus driver will allow you to board the bus. And the bus is considered to be a common carrier. Yung inyong mga eroplano, yung mga commercial planes, they are considered common carriers. Yung mga shipping lines, yung mga barko, they are considered as common carriers because they are offering their services to the public. Hindi naman sila namimili ng pasahero. As long as the pasahero can pay, as long as the owner of the goods can pay the freight, then they would accommodate your shipment. So they are considered common carriers. And under the law, there is a specific degree of diligence required. According to the law, common carriers are bound to observe extraordinary diligence in the vigilance over the goods according to all circumstances of each case. So, ano ba yung presumption? Sabi ng batas, the law says, common carriers are responsible for the loss, destruction, or deterioration of the goods. So kapag nawala yung shipment, nasira yung shipment, may defect sa shipment, may loss ng shipment, automatic si common carrier liable. Except when it is due to the following: flood, storm, earthquake, lightning, or other natural disaster. Acts of the public enemy in war, acts or omission of the shipper, kung mismo si shipper yung nagpabaya doon sa shipment niya, alam niyang perishable yung goods niya pero hindi siya nag-pack suitably, okay? Or the character of the goods or defects in the packing or the container or the order of a competent public authority. So other than the five situations, common carrier is responsible for the loss or destruction of the goods. And according to the law, there is a presumption of liability. Kapag nawala, automatic liable si common carrier. Kapag nasira, automatic liable si common carrier. Unless it falls under the 5 situations. So let's move to the case. The Loadmaster case. Ano bang nangyari dito? Si Glodel is a corporation engaged in customs brokerage. So meron siyang customs brokerage. Nagpa-file siya ng entry sa Bureau of Customs. But the corporation does not have tracks. So nagpa-file lang siya pero wala siyang tracking. So what Glodel did was to engage loadmasters to transport the shipment. Sabi ni Glodel kay loadmaster, wala akong track pero meron kang track dyan. Paarkilahin mo naman ako. Meron akong shipment na 132 bundles of copper cathodes. Kailangan ko ng 12 track mo. Pwede ka ba? So sabi ni loadmaster, sige, pwede. So I'll transport your shipment to their place of destination. Unfortunately, of the 12 trucks, only 11 was able to deliver the shipment. Anong nangyari sa isa? Yung isa hinayjack ng empleyado ng loadmaster. Siguro yung empleyado merong sama ng loob sa employer niya. Sabi ng empleyado, wala naman akong makukuha sa iyo employer ko. Ito na lang yung shipment na kinarga namin yung kukunin namin. So maybe that's the reason of the employee. So one was hijacked. So the importer filed a case against loadmaster. Kasi siya naman yung customs broker. Si Glodel pala, kay Glodel. Si Glodel naman sabi niya, hindi ko naman kasalanan kasi hindi naman ako yung nag-transport ng shipment. Si loadmaster yung may kasalanan. So sabi ng Supreme Court, liable ba si customs broker? Sabi ng Supreme Court, liable si customs broker. Why? Because according to the court, even if Glodel did not have the truck, but because siya yung nagpakilala doon sa importer na ako na bahala na mag-transport ng goods mo, then that customs broker became a common carrier. So a customs broker has been regarded as a common carrier because the nature of the business involves the transportation of the goods. Yan naman 'di ba kalimitan ng mga customs broker natin. Sila na yung magfa-file ng entry sa Bureau of Customs, sa kanila din yung truck. At kahit hindi sa kanila yung truck, sila yung nag-arkila ng truck, then they are considered as a common carrier. And as common carrier, they are required to observe extraordinary diligence. Sabi ng Supreme Court, dapat ikaw, Glodel, you should have exercised extraordinary diligence. Sabi naman ng Glodel, how? Paano ko masasabi that I exerted extraordinary diligence? According to the court, you should have assigned a person to go with the trucks. Dapat daw nagpadala ka ng tao na magbantay doon sa trucks to ensure that the shipment will really arrive at their place of destination. Okay? So in case of loss of the goods, the common carrier is presumed to have been at fault. So as customs brokers in the future, especially if you involved in the transportation of the shipment of your importers, make sure that you exercise extraordinary diligence. Kasi if anything happens to your shipment, if may mawala, may masira, o anumang mangyari that would diminish the commercial value of your shipment, then you are automatically presumed to be liable to have acted negligently under the law. Okay, next case, yung West Wind, similar facts. Okay, so sa case na to, si customs broker, I think it was Orient Freight, si Orient Freight yung customs broker dito, hindi siya yung may sala, ang may kasalanan yung terminal operator. Kasi nung nag-transport yung terminal operator ng container from the vessel to the yard, nasira. Pero walang ginawa si Orient Freight, pinabayaan niya. So sabi ng Supreme Court, Orient Freight is liable as a common carrier. Hindi daw defense ni Orient Freight na customs broker lang siya, because sabi ng Supreme Court, there were already cases in the past which considered a customs broker as a common carrier. Okay, next case. Hindi na to customs broker. Okay. This is a case involving a vessel. Okay. I think some of my students are familiar on the case. Those who are reading my books maybe have read this in the discussion of the cases. The case of Feeder International Line versus Court of Appeals. So what are the facts? So sabi ko kanina, it involves a vessel. So there was a vessel, MT Yuluwai, and this vessel came from Singapore. And that vessel anchored in the waters near Iloilo. At yung vessel may kargang oil, okay? Gasoline products. However, yung barko na to, wala silang papel. Wala silang dalang papel when the Bureau of Customs boarded the vessel. So wala silang mapakitang papel. And because of that, the Bureau of Customs seized the vessel. Sabi naman ni Feeder, sila yung may-ari ng barko. Yung pag-seize daw ng barko was not supported by proof beyond reasonable doubt. Sabi ng may-ari ng barko, there was a denial of due process. So yan yung claim nila. The vessel was seized without proof beyond reasonable doubt. Hanggang umabot sa Supreme Court. Sabi ng Supreme Court, hindi required yung proof beyond reasonable doubt. Why? Because the forfeiture proceeding is not penal in nature. It is an administrative proceeding. It does not result in the conviction of the offender nor in the imposition of the penalty of imprisonment under Section 3601 of the TCCP or Section 1400 of the CMTA. Dati when I was still in the Bureau of Customs, kasi ngayon I've already left the Bureau of Customs. When I was still with the Bureau of Customs, my first role then was to respond to queries from the public. At minsan merong isang client na takot siyang nagdala ng papel niya because she thought that because of the warrant of seizure and detention, she would be arrested for whatever violation or regarding the importation of her shipment. So ang sagot ko sa kanya, hindi po yan warrant of arrest because the seizure and forfeiture case is not criminal in nature. Hindi porket merong WSD ay automatic na makukulong yung importer. Okay? And because hindi siya criminal in nature, then proof beyond reasonable doubt is not required. The degree of proof required in an administrative case, such as in seizure and forfeiture proceeding, is merely substantial evidence. And that is the degree of proof that a reasonably prudent man believes that there is evidence or there are facts and circumstances that would make him believe that the thing to be seized is subject to forfeiture under our customs laws. Hindi required yung proof beyond reasonable doubt because that degree of proof is only required under a criminal case. And according to the court, seizure proceedings are merely civil and administrative in character. And the purpose of seizure proceeding is to enforce the imposition of an administrative fine. Hindi porket may WSD ay makukulong na yung importer. Okay? So that is why there were questions before na automatic ba sir kapag merong WSD ay matatanggal ng lisensya si customs broker? So the answer is no, hindi. Hindi automatic yan kasi yung seizure proceeding is a proceeding in rem and it is only directed against the shipment. Kaya nga yung title ng forfeiture case is Republic of the Philippines versus the shipment, not versus the importer, not versus the customs broker, because it only affects the shipment. And the penalty in seizure case is distinct and separate from the criminal liability. Okay, next, the case of Bureau of Customs versus Interlink Recyclers. What is this all about? Yung case na to is all about the importation of used clothes. Okay. Interlink Recyclers is a free port zone locator in Subic Bay. And ang negosyo ni Interlink Recyclers is the importation of remnant garments, clothes, and rugs. So merong mga used clothes from abroad na dadalhin sa facility ni Interlink Recyclers. And then what Interlink will do is to segregate yung menswear, segregate yung women's wear, and then segregate yung shorts, yung pants, yung t-shirts, yung upper garments. And then once the clothes are segregated, ipapack ulit siya and then i-re-export. Yan yung negosyo ni Interlink Recyclers. So the Bureau of Customs issued a circular enforcing Republic Act number 4653. And what is Republic Act number 4653? I'm sure you're very familiar with RA 4653. This is the law that prohibits the importation of used clothes and rugs. And if you read the law, it says that the purpose of prohibiting the importation is to protect the dignity of the people and to protect the health of the people. Those are the purposes of RA 4653. So Interlink questioned the application of the circular on its shipments. Sabi ni Interlink Recyclers, the prohibition under RA 4653 does not apply on our facility. Okay? Yan yung sabi ni Interlink Recyclers. Nagpunta sila sa Regional Trial Court because the Interlink Recyclers filed a case for declaratory relief until they reached the Supreme Court. And what did the Supreme Court rule in this case? To whom did the Supreme Court support the defense? Kanino ba siya naniwala? Did the Supreme Court believe the Bureau of Customs? Did the Supreme Court believe Interlink Recyclers? The Supreme Court said in its decision, the Supreme Court gave a historical background on the creation of the Freeport Zone. According to the court, the purpose of the Subic Bay Freeport Zone is the free movement of goods in and out of the portion of the country with the least government intervention. And the purpose of that is to attract investors. So, according to the court, the Freeport Zone is considered as a separate territory. And a customs territory, according to the court, is that portion of the Philippine territory where tariff and customs laws are enforced. And a Freeport Zone is outside of the customs territory. Ulitin ko, yung customs territory ay parte ng teritoryo ng Pilipinas kung saan applicable ang ating tariff and customs laws. At yung Freeport Zone ay outside ng ating customs territory. In effect, the customs territory does not include a Freeport Zone. And a Freeport Zone is outside of the customs territory. So whatever law that applies within a customs territory is not applicable in a Freeport Zone because it is outside of the customs territory. Therefore, the Republic Act 4653 does not apply in a Freeport zone. And the circular does not apply to interlinked recyclers. And the court also said that the purpose of RA 4653 in prohibiting the introduction of used clothes and rugs into the Philippines are two. The first purpose is to to protect the health of the people. Kasi nga kapag mga gamit na ng mga used clothes na baka mayroon yung mga diseases na madala papunta sa Philippines. And the purpose of the prohibition is to stop the spread of whatever disease that may have been brought together with the shipment. And second is to protect the dignity of the people. Sabi ng Supreme Court, because these shipments are only segregated within the facility of Interlink, and they are, after segregation, re-exported into wherever outside the country, the goods do not enter the country. Therefore, they do not bring the diseases. Okay? So na-meet pa rin yung purpose. The purpose of RA 4653 are still met because they do not get inside the domestic market. That's the ruling of the court in the case of BOC versus Interlink. Okay, let me check. Merong nag-chat dito. So, Rieta versus People of the Philippines. So, this is also another criminal case. So, Colonel Lacson, our former Senator Ping Lacson, intercepted a cargo truck because they received an information that there is a cargo truck that will be used in smuggling activities. So they found that truck within port area in Manila. And when they intercepted the truck, they found 371 cases of untaxed cigarettes. So si Rieta is the owner of the shipment. Rieta said, what you did to my shipment was illegal because you were not armed with a search warrant. There was no warrant issued by the court. Yun yung sabi ni Rieta. Until it reached the Supreme Court. Sabi naman ni Colonel Lacson, no, it does not need a search warrant issued by a court because we are in the exercise of the police authority under customs law. So what did the Supreme Court say? The Supreme Court said that the search and seizure of goods suspected to have been introduced in the country in violation of our customs laws is one of the 7 doctrinally accepted exceptions to the constitutional provision. Because according to the Constitution, ang sabi ng Constitution, the right of the people against unreasonable searches and seizures of whatever nature and for any purpose shall be inviolable. And no search or seizure can be effected unless there is a warrant issued by the court. So walang pwedeng ma-search, walang pwedeng hulihin unless there is a warrant issued by the court. And according to Supreme Court, customs seizure, customs search is an exception to that rule. The general rule na walang pwedeng mag-search, walang pwedeng arestuhin kapag walang warrant does not apply in the case of customs search and seizure. Because according to the court, a search and seizure may be made even without a warrant for the purpose of enforcing our customs laws. Kasi sabi ng Supreme Court, ang sasakyan madaling mag-move, di ba? It's moving from one place to another. And if we will wait for the court to issue a warrant, baka na-transport na yung mga kontraband na kailangang hulihin ng ating mga otoridad. So that's why if you read your CMTA, di ba, according to section 219, and any person exercising police authority may at any time enter, pass through, or search any place other than a dwelling house. So kapag yung lugar ay hindi bahay, there is no need for a search warrant to be issued by the court. In fact, the law authorizes any person exercising police authority under our customs laws to enter, to search and pass through such place, okay? Such warehouse, a warehouse, an office, or any other structure, unless the same is a dwelling house. Kapag dwelling house, the law is clear in section 220 that if it is a dwelling house, there must be a warrant issued by a competent court, particularly describing the place to be searched and the thing to be seized. There's another case, Howe versus Court of Appeals. In this case, the Bureau of Customs seized vehicles, spare parts, and other accessories at the warehouse of Howe and Bernardo. And Howe and Bernardo, what did they do? They filed a case against the Bureau of Customs, filed an action for injunction. Ano ba yung injunction? That is a civil action stopping the Bureau of Customs from doing something, from enforcing its authority. In fact, the reason for for Howe and Bernardo here was to stop the Bureau of Customs from seizing, transporting, and selling the vehicles, the spare parts, and other accessories. And the regional trial court in this case granted their case, okay, granted their request for an for a temporary restraining order and a preliminary injunction. In effect, the Bureau of Customs was prevented from exercising its authority. So what did the Bureau of Customs do? The Bureau of Customs questioned the jurisdiction of the court until it reached the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court sided with the Bureau of Customs. The Supreme Court said, regional trial courts do not have the competence to pass upon the validity or regularity of seizure and forfeiture proceedings, because it is the jurisdiction of the Bureau of Customs, in particular the Collector of Customs. It's an exclusive jurisdiction to hear and determine all questions related to seizure and forfeiture. And the fact that the law, the Tariff and Customs Code before, the Tariff and Customs Code before, and the Customs Modernization and Tariff Act now expressly vests exclusive jurisdiction on the Bureau of Customs means that the regional trial courts are precluded from taking cognizance of the case. Kaya nga, babasahin niyo yung section 202 ng CMTA, nakalagay dyan, the Bureau of Customs shall exercise exclusive original jurisdiction over forfeiture cases. So kapag yung shipment na seized ni Bureau of Customs, ang dapat gawin ni importer ay mag-participate sa seizure proceeding. And if ever the Collector of Customs decides against the interest of the importer, then file an appeal before the Commissioner of Customs until it reaches the Court of Tax Appeals and the Supreme Court. You cannot go to the regional trial court and file a case against the Bureau of Customs. Okay, Papa versus Mago. So same sila ng scenario doon sa case ni Senator Lacson. Okay? So nag-file pa rin ng preliminary injunction against the Bureau of Customs. And the Supreme Court ruled again in favor of the Bureau of Customs. It says the Bureau of Customs acquires exclusive jurisdiction over the goods to the exclusion of the regular courts. I will also have another webinar on Thursday, and I will talk about seizure and forfeiture proceedings. And part of my discussion would be to explain the different concepts of jurisdiction and the doctrines related thereto. Yung exclusive jurisdiction, original jurisdiction, appellate jurisdiction, concurrent jurisdiction, yung doctrine of exhaustion of administrative remedies, doctrine of primary jurisdiction. So if you're free on Thursday, please join us in another webinar. Okay. Next case, yung case ng Collector of Customs versus Guillermo Torres. What is this case all about? So this case involves a shipment of 158 package of imported goods and personal effects. And this shipment arrived at the port of Manila. Ang declaration niya, personal effects. Okay? At ang binayaran niya 10,000 pesos only. So 10,000 pesos only. But the Manila Police District did not believe that the shipment only contains personal effects. Okay, so ang ginawa ng Manila Police District, in-intercept nila yung shipment and seize the goods because they believe that there was undervaluation and misdeclaration. Now, the owners questioned the legality of the seizure. And what they did was filed a case against the police department and the Bureau of Customs before the Regional Trial Court. Yung CFI kasi, that's the Court of First Instance. That's the previous name of the Regional Trial Court. And similar with the previous cases that I've mentioned, the Supreme Court said that the Regional Trial Court does not have jurisdiction over these forfeiture cases. Because according to the court, if may problema si importer sa decision ni district collector, he can always appeal the decision of the district collector to the Commissioner of Customs, then to the Court of Tax Appeals, and all the way to the Supreme Court. The Regional Trial Court, the Municipal Trial Court is out of the picture when it comes to seizure and forfeiture cases. Okay. We move on to Jimmy Yaukasin case. Ito namang Jimmy Yaukasin case talks about the automatic review power of the Commissioner of Customs. So the Philippine Coast Guard seized and turned over 9,000 bags of sugar in the Bureau of Customs port of Tacloban. And the district collector of Tacloban initially ordered the release of the sugar because the district collector was convinced that the sugar was procured locally. However, when the case was forwarded to the case records was forwarded to a Commissioner of Customs because of the automatic review power, hindi na in-release ng district collector. So the importer argued that since wala namang nag-appeal sa decision ni district collector, then it should have become final and executory. Therefore, there's no more reason for you to prevent the release of the sugar. So ang sabi ng Commissioner of Customs, you cannot do that because I am exercising my automatic review power. Whenever the district collector decides in favor of the importer, that naturally is not favorable to the Bureau, not favorable to the government. So I have to secure the interest of the government. Therefore, aakyat sa opisina ni Commissioner for automatic review. Sabi ng Supreme Court, tama si Commissioner of Customs because when the decision of the district collector is favorable to the importer, logically, hindi mag-a-appeal si importer. Ba't ka mag-a-appeal? Panalo ka nga, di ba? The owner is not expected to appeal the decision of the collector when it is favorable to him. And therefore, who will check if the decision of the district collector is lawful, if it is correct? Kung hindi ba nagkakuntsabahan si district collector at yung importer? Wala. And that is primarily the reason there is the existence of the automatic review power under the law. Because it is only through the automatic review power that the commissioner or the Secretary of Finance can review the decision of the district collector and check whether or not it was lawful. The decision was lawful, was based on the facts or based on the law. And that is to prevent the connivance of the importers and other customs officials. Okay? Now, itong Airlift Asia involves the validity of the Customs Administrative Order number 3-2006 because in 2006, the former commissioner issued this CAO requiring the registration of customs brokers with the Bureau of Customs before they can exercise or before they can practice the profession. And Airlift Asia questioned the validity of the CAO. The Supreme Court said that the Commissioner of Customs has no power over the practice of the customs broker profession. Why? Kasi sabi ng Supreme Court, the power to regulate the practice of the profession according to Republic Act number 9280 is now with the Professional Regulatory Board for Customs Brokers. Dati kasi prior to RA 9280, yung Board of Examiners is composed of the Commissioner of Customs as chairperson, the Commissioner of the Tariff Commission as member, and 3 other members. In fact, kapag district collector ka, kahit hindi ka graduate ng Customs Administration, pwede kang maging customs broker. Basta nag-serve ka na ng 5 years, that is under the previous law. And if you are the Commissioner of Customs, kahit hindi ka graduate ng Customs Administration, automatic ka customs broker kasi ikaw yung chairperson ng Board of Examiners. So sabi na Supreme Court, before RA 9280, the Commissioner of Customs has the power because the law vests upon him the chairmanship of the Board of Examiners. But under RA 9280, the Bureau of Customs Commissioner is already stripped of that power. Okay, the power to regulate the profession. And therefore, the exclusion of the Bureau of Customs Commissioner as member of the PRBCV proves and shows the legislative intent of Congress to remove the power to supervise, control, and regulate the profession. Okay, so these powers do not include the power to issue Customs Administrative Order number 3-2006. Next case would be Bureau of Customs versus Jade Brothers. Ano bang nangyari sa case na to? Jade Brothers has an importation of rice shipments at the Manila International Container Port. And the Bureau of Customs believed that the shipment required NFA permits. And because Jade Brothers was not able to present the necessary NFA import permits, the Bureau of Customs seized the rice shipments. Jade Brothers, on the other hand, claim na hindi na kailangan ng NFA shipments. And because hindi kailangan ng NFA permits, hindi siya regulated. And because hindi siya regulated, then freely importable siya. You can import the rice shipments even without the issuance of a permit. The Bureau of Customs did not accept that allegation, did not accept that defense, and in fact proceeded with the sale through public auction. Okay, take note ha, bakit nag-public auction si Bureau of Customs? Just to give you the proper perspective. The Bureau of Customs in this particular case has not yet finally disposed of the forfeiture case. Wala pang decision sa forfeiture case. Why did the Bureau of Customs seek the public auction sale? Because of the perishable nature of the shipment. If you read your CMTA, nakasaad sa CMTA that in case of perishable goods, upon request of the importer, the Bureau of Customs can sell through public auction the goods and hold the proceeds. So kapag nabenta yung shipment at yung proceeds doon ang pagbinentahan niya, isi-safekeep muna ni Bureau of Customs hanggang ma-dispose yung case. Kapag na-decide na panalo si importer, ibabalik ni Bureau of Customs, ibibigay ni Bureau of Customs yung proceeds doon sa sale sa kanya. Pero kapag talo naman sa importer, kukunin na ni Bureau of Customs as part of the collection. So this was the public auction here. Hindi siya as a penalty, not because the goods were forfeited, but because the goods were perishable in nature, and therefore, the Bureau of Customs can sell the same through public auction. Jade Brothers went to the Court of Tax Appeals. Kasi sabi ng Jade Brothers, huwag niyong ibenta. Kasi hindi naman kailangan ng permit. I-release nyo na. Pero hindi pinag-release ni Bureau of Customs. Tinuloy ni Bureau of Customs yung public auction sale. So what did Jade Brothers do? Umakyat na sila sa Court of Tax Appeals. Hindi na sila pumunta kay Commissioner. Sabi ni Bureau of Customs, hindi tama yung ginawa mo, Jade Brothers. You should have sought recourse through the Commissioner of Customs. Because according to the TCCP, the Commissioner of Customs has the power
So ang sagot naman ni Jade doon is kami pinayagan na i-release yung shipment namin. So it will be useless for us to go to the Commissioner of Customs. So the Jade brothers went directly to the Court of Tax Appeals. So the question in the Supreme Court was whether or not the Court of Tax Appeals has jurisdiction over the decision of the District Collector. Kasi di ba, ang lagi kong sinasabi sa inyo, kapag decision ni District Collector, akyat muna kay Commissioner. Kapag talo pa rin kay Commissioner, that's the time you go to the Court of Tax Appeals. So in this particular case, nag-bypass sila. Hindi sila pumunta kay Commissioner, dumiretso kay Court of Tax Appeals. Meron bang jurisdiction sa Court of Tax Appeals? Sabi ng Supreme Court, the posting of the notice of public auction, and in fact, the actual public auction sale ang kabayo. So the Supreme Court said the constructive denial by the Bureau of Customs could already be appealed to the CTA division, and this is an exception to the doctrine of exhaustion of administrative remedies. And what happened to the proceeds of the auction sale? The Supreme Court also said hindi kailangan ng permit, and therefore dapat isauli ni Bureau of Customs yung pinagbentahan doon sa rice shipment ni Jade Brothers. So the Jade Brothers case is an exception to the general rule on the doctrine of exhaustion of administrative remedies. Kasi yung doctrine of exhaustion of administrative remedies said that you have to exhaust first all the remedies within an administrative body before you can go to court. Okay, before you can go to court. Kaya nga kapag ang decision ng district collector, akyat ka kay commissioner, kapag talo ka pa rin kay commissioner, that's the time you can go to the Court of Tax Appeals. And finally, the last case is the case of Chamber of Customs Brokers versus Commissioner of Customs. So we have three laws here. Yung first provision ng batas natin is Republic Act number 9280. In particular, Section 27. Ang sabi ng Section 27, import and export entry declaration shall be signed only by customs broker. So customs broker lang ang pwedeng pumirma ng entry declarations. However, after a few years, RA 9280 was passed in 2004. After, I think, 3 years, RA 9280 was amended by RA 9853. And in RA 9853, it was deleted. That phrase was deleted because it says that export declaration shall be signed by the exporter or at his option delegate the signing and processing of the document to the customs broker. So if we go back sa RA 9280, both import and export si customs broker lang. Dito sa RA 9853, ang export declaration pwede na si exporter. So ibig sabihin, ang natira na lang kay customs broker yung import entry. Sa Section 106 letter D ng RA 10863, tanggal na pati yung import entry kay customs broker. Because under RA 10863 letter D, any person who is considered to be the agent or attorney in fact can sign the goods declaration. So the Chamber of Customs Brokers questioned RA 10863 letter D because according to the CCBI, RA 10863 is violative of the Equal Protection Clause because it allows a person other than a customs broker to perform an act which is legally allowed or given only to a licensed customs broker. Yan yung contention ng CCBI. And to declare that Section 27 under RA 9280 is still valid and in effect. Okay? But the Supreme Court said, no, that cannot be done. Why? Because Section 27 under RA 9280 was already amended by RA 9853. And RA 9280, yung Section 27 doon, that the customs broker has the exclusive authority to sign a customs import entry, has also been amended by RA 10863, because RA 10863 divests the customs broker the sole authority to sign the goods declaration and allow any person, as long as authorized by the importer, as attorney in fact or agent of the importer. So that's the ruling of the court in CCBI versus Commissioner of Customs. So, and is that the death of our profession? I'd like to believe no, it is not the death of our profession. Kasi we studied customs administration. We are better equipped to represent our importers and process their shipments before the Bureau of Customs. So all that we have to do is to equip ourselves to gain more experience, study more. If you want to become lawyers, then you study law and become lawyers so that you can better represent your client before the Bureau of Customs or before any other government agency. So those are the landmark cases involving customs laws and involving customs brokers. So this time, I'm willing to answer your other questions. Feel free to ask questions, okay, even if it's not related to the case, to the cases, as long as it's customs law. Huwag kayong magtanong ng classification kasi hindi ko specialty yung classification. Okay, sir, yung pwede na customs formalities para sa used clothing is through admission lang kasi kapag nag-undergo ng transit from any port of entry into the Philippines, it would be subjected to seizure since it is considered prohibited outside the free zones. That's correct. That's correct. Sir, how do we protect ourselves as customs brokers since the CMTA stated that only the importer, aside from the commissioner, can request for a physical examination of the importer? So as I've mentioned earlier, Patrick, make sure that you have paper trail proving that the documents were given to you by the importer. Kasi ang problema, baka sabihin ng importer na kayo lang yung gumawa ng papeles, kayo lang yung gumawa ng documents at babalik sa inyo yung turuan. Okay? Do we have other questions? Sir, ano pong pinagkaiba ng Court of Appeals sa Court of Tax Appeals? Now, the Court of Tax Appeals is a special court. Why is it a special court? Because it only has jurisdiction over tax and customs cases. Ang Court of Appeals kasi is an appellate court on any matter within the jurisdiction of the regional trial court or the municipal trial court. So, pwede siya civil, pwede siya criminal cases, ang Court of Appeals. Ang Court of Tax Appeals naman, appellate court siya, but only on tax and customs cases. Nathaniel, if you are free, please join us on another webinar on Thursday. I will discuss, to a certain extent, the jurisdiction of the Court of Tax Appeals in relation to customs, seizure, and forfeiture cases. If you read your CMTA, under the provision on, check natin yung CMTA ha. Now, if you read your CMTA on Section 814, Chapter 3 on free zones. Imported goods shall be admitted into free zone. Ang nakalagay dito is that the Bureau of Customs shall coordinate with the governing authority of free port zones. So, ibig sabihin, joint Okay, joint responsibility ni customs at ng Freeport Zone. In fact, kapag merong operation sa Bureau of Customs inside the Freeport Zone, it has to be coordinated with the Freeport Zone Authority. Ano po yung mga example questions sa cases sa board exam? Okay, ang narinig ko lang kasi hindi na ako nag-take ng board exam after I passed the board examination. Ang laging tinatanong is yung Erwin Remigio case. Okay, there was the Erwin Remigio case. Yan yung laging tinatanong. Possible po ba, sir, na lumabas sa CBLE lahat ng cases? It's possible na merong isa, merong dalawa, merong tatlo. So at least alam nyo. Don't worry, I will share my summary of the case rulings. I will upload that in my Facebook page. Yung summary ng case rulings for you to read and study the rulings of the court. Sir, ano po yung mga case na pwedeng lang i-appeal sa NBank? Do you mean the Court of Tax Appeals NBank? If it's Court of Tax Appeals NBank, any case, any decision rendered by the Court of Tax Appeals Division. Okay. Emil, you attend my webinar on Thursday because I will discuss thoroughly on that matter. Okay. Kapag sa Commissioner of Customs, kapag natalo si importer, ang pwede niyang gawin is mag-appeal sa Court of Tax Appeals Division. Kapag sa Court of Tax Appeals Division, talo pa rin si importer, ang gagawin niya, mag-MR siya, motion for reconsideration or motion for new trial. Kapag dininay ni division yung MR niya, aakyat siya kay NBank, kay Court of Tax Appeals NBank. Only when the Court of Tax Appeals Division has denied the motion for reconsideration or motion for new trial, can the NBank, the Court of Tax Appeals NBank, exercise jurisdiction over the case. Chicago ba to? Oh, you joined the webinar on Thursday for the Court of Tax Appeals NBank. Sir, pwede, on all cases po ba pwede na iakyat agad sa SC yung case kung perishable yung goods? Okay, it's like this, Jovi. The general rule is doctrine of exhaustion of administrative remedies. Exception dyan if number one, if it becomes futile exercise, if it is useless, okay, if it deprives due process on the part of the party claiming. So kapag nag-fall doon sa mga exceptions, then you can invoke the power of the Supreme Court. Okay? But in most instances, mas ifa-follow ng Supreme Court yung general rule on the doctrine of exhaustion of administrative remedies and the principle of judicial hierarchy. So, hindi in all cases pwedeng umakyat diretso sa Supreme Court kasi meron tayong principle of judicial hierarchy. Okay? And if the Supreme Court would allow that, ang daming kaso na aakyat sa Supreme Court. Kaya only when you properly invoke the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court will the Supreme Court entertain your case. In fact, in other cases, i-dismiss yan ng Supreme Court because of lack of jurisdiction. So ano po ba difference ng CTA Division and NBank? LCB 2024, please attend my webinar on Thursday. I will discuss on that. Sir, regarding exportation of goods is merely illegal to be exported, thus the authorities outside customs can seize and arrest the cargo without mission order. Yes, if the shipment has been if an entry has been filed, an export entry has been filed, and customs has knowledge or has notice that the shipment is considered to be prohibited, yes, pwede. The Bureau of Customs can always seize the goods because the jurisdiction of the Bureau of Customs under Section 202, both for export and import, okay, both exportation and importation of goods. Sir, anong specific question related sa case po? Pwede na magbigay ng facts yung case? Pwedeng magbigay ng facts yung question? For example, a shipment of rice arrived at the port of Manila and the customs broker filed an entry on the basis of such documents. Later on, it was found that the shipment actually contained taxable goods other than rice. Is the customs broker liable? Oh, letter A, no. Why? Letter B, yes. Why? Letter C, no. Why? Letter D, none of the above. O, ganyan yung tanong. So at least alam nyo lang yung ruling ng case so that you can apply it to the question. Sa protest, you may refer to, okay, depende sa case. Kasi yung protest involves three, di ba? Three cases. Pwede siyang valuation, pwedeng classification, pwedeng rules of origin. Kapag tariff classification, ang decision ni Commissioner of Customs on the protest, hindi ka muna umakyat sa CTA because the Tariff Commission Order and the Customs Administrative Order allows the importer to seek recourse with the Tariff Commission. So Tariff Commission ka muna. Kapag tapos ng Tariff Commission, pwede ka nang umakyat sa Court of Tax Appeals. Pero kapag valuation and rules of origin, after the Commissioner of Customs, akyat ka na kay Court of Tax Appeals. Sir, after ko mag-appeal kay Commissioner, paano ko malalaman kung walang Secretary of Finance? Kasi yung Secretary of Finance only assumes automatic review power. Automatic review, walang appeal. So kapag Commissioner of Customs, diretso ka na Court of Tax Appeals. Sir, tuwing kailan ba papasok yung appeal kay SOF? Okay, you join, Carl, you join my webinar on Thursday. We will discuss that. There are only two situations where the Secretary of Finance assumes automatic review power. And we will discuss those two situations. According to Sir Clarkey, okay, thank you also Sir Clarkey. Sir Clarkey is the advisor of PSCAS and UC Maine. According to him, in 2021, there were 6 cases. In 2022, 4 cases. And in 2023, 4 cases. Okay, so there were 6, 4, and 4 cases. Good morning, attorney. Nag-wonder lang ko sa Guillermo Torres na case. Okay, the National Law Enforcement Agency or National Law Enforcement agents cannot directly intervene cannot directly exercise police authority. They have to secure authorization from the Commissioner of Customs. In the cases, Tricia, take note that these cases were decided prior to the CMTA. So according to the CMTA and according to the Customs Administrative Order, for a law enforcement agency to exercise police authority, they have to secure the authorization from the Commissioner of Customs. And under existing regulation, that authorization is in the form of a deputization order. Sa caption title, sir, paano po malalaman kung sino ang nag-file ng case? Okay, ganito. Diba, dalawa yan. AAA versus BBB. Kung sino yung naunang na-mention, yan yung nag-file ng case. Okay, kung sino yung naunang nag-mention, yan yung nag-file ng case. For example, in the case of Remigio versus Sandigan Bayan, si Remigio yung nag-file ng case sa Supreme Court. In the case of Opiniano versus People, si Opiniano yung nag-file ng appeal sa Supreme Court. Okay, Guillermo Torres were the MPDCs. Okay, according to the case, it was not mentioned in the case if there was an authorization from the Commissioner of Customs. But take note that under the CMTA, for members of the law enforcement agency to exercise police authority, there is the requirement of authorization from the Commissioner of Customs in the form of deputization order. Okay. Okay, most of the questions here pertain to appeals. So I'm inviting you to join my webinar on Thursday. Okay, on Thursday, we will discuss appeals process on Thursday. Sir, SOF po ba appeal sa tariff classification? It refers po sa tariff dispute ruling na highly technical. Well, the Tariff Commission order provides for a process where you can file your appeal to the Secretary of Finance if galing sa Tariff Commission. So either Secretary of Finance or you go to Court of Tax Appeals. Okay. Shall I turn over to Earl or Christian?
Yes, sir. So I think there's no more questions na to be answered by attorney. At this moment, I hope you already filled out the Google form for your e-certificates. And as we wrap up today's CBLA case review, I want to extend a huge thank you to everyone for your active participation and engagement. There's been a lively discussion with plenty of insights to take away, but of course, none of this would have been possible without the invaluable knowledge and expertise shared by our esteemed lecturer, Attorney Andaya. To Attorney Andaya, your clear and in-depth analysis has certainly left us better equipped to navigate the complexities of customs and legal matters. We truly appreciate the time and effort you dedicated to making the session as informative as it was. And to all the participants, thank you for your enthusiasm and thoughtful questions. Let's continue this momentum as we apply all the knowledge that we've learned today, and I wish you good luck and best of luck for your CBLE journey. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, everyone. So if ever you have questions, feel free to message me in my Facebook page. Okay? So message na kayo sa Facebook page. I'll share to you the Supreme Court rulings in a little while. So thank you very much, everyone, and best of luck, and may God bless you in your licensure examination next week.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
po.
Thank you,
Thank you po.
sir.
Thank you po.